They left me out of the family vacation, so I rented the house next door and watched it unfold. I never thought I'd be the kind of person who literally spies on their own family. But here I am, sitting in a dimly lit living room, peeking through the blinds with a pair of binoculars pressed to my face. And the house I'm watching? It belongs to my family. Or, well, it's the massive beach rental my dad, Rick, and the rest of them booked for their grand summer vacation. The one they forgot to tell me about. The one they're all settling into right now, carrying suitcases and laughing about how great it feels to finally have everyone together. Everyone except me, apparently. I still can't believe I spent half my savings to rent this cozy little place next door. It feels ridiculous and a little bit unhinged. But the minute I accidentally discovered they were heading on a family trip without me, I acted on impulse. I wanted to see for myself what they were doing, if they'd even miss me, or if I'd just be another unoccupied bedroom they never bothered to fill. If you'd told me a year ago that I'd be creeping around like this, I would have laughed in your face. And yet, here I sit, hiding in the shadows while they pop open bottles of wine and toast to being all together. It started about 3 weeks ago when my older sister, Nicole, posted a cryptic message on social media. "Can't wait for our epic family getaway. So many memories to make." She tagged my dad, my mom Linda, my younger brother Mark, and even a few cousins, like Ashley and Sam from out of state. My name, however, was conspicuously absent. At first, I told myself it was just an oversight. Maybe she only tagged the people who'd commented on her last post. But then I kept scrolling and saw other references to this trip. My cousin Sam mentioned the big beach house. Mark joked about how he was gonna grill the best steaks for Dad's big milestone. And Ashley posted a pic of some random beach gear she'd just bought for the trip. All of it confirmed the same suspicion. A massive family vacation was underway, and I was never invited. I kept checking my phone, waiting for a text or a call. Something that said, "Hey, sorry we forgot to mention it, but of course you're coming too." Days passed. Nothing. I would be lying if I said it didn't sting. I've always been a bit of an outsider in my family. The quiet, middle child who never quite learned how to compete with my siblings. Nicole is the family's high achiever, always leading the pack, making speeches, organizing events. Mark is the laid-back charmer who can talk anyone into anything. Me? I'm the one who goes home early from parties, the one who might get overshadowed in group photos, the one who gets teased for being too sensitive. But I never imagined they'd plan an entire trip without me. I tried to justify it in my head. Maybe they genuinely thought I couldn't make it because I've been dealing with some job instability. Maybe they assumed I wouldn't want to spend money on a beach vacation. Still, there's a big difference between assuming and never even asking. I spent a few nights agonizing over whether I should confront them or just ignore it and move on. Then I stumbled upon a rental listing. Cozy beach bungalow. Next to oceanfront property. Prime location. I clicked, and to my astonishment, the map pinned it right beside the massive place my family had rented. It was available for the exact week they'd be there. A tiny little house right next door. The idea popped into my mind like a spark in dry grass. Rent it, watch from a distance, and see if they notice my absence. Maybe it was petty and irrational, but I was hurt. So I booked it. Now I'm watching Dad step onto the front porch of their gigantic rental, looking as happy as I've seen him in years. He's got a big grin, and Nicole is taking photos of him while everyone else moves suitcases inside. Linda, Mom, waves her arms as if she's directing traffic, calling out to Ashley to grab something from the car. I hear Mark's loud laugh echo through the summer air. It's also picturesque, like one of those idyllic ads for family reunions on travel websites. Meanwhile, I'm holed up next door, blinds half closed, feeling like a wannabe detective in my own life. I set the binoculars aside for a moment, trying to ease the knot in my stomach. The rental I'm in is nice enough. Clean living area, small but serviceable kitchen, a bedroom with a decent bed. The walls are decorated with seashell-themed art, which I guess is mandatory for any beach property. There's a slight musty smell, but nothing I can't handle. I've stocked the fridge with enough food to keep me from having to venture out too often, although part of me is morbidly curious whether I'll run into someone from my family if I go to the local grocery store. Would they be shocked? Embarrassed? Relieved that they could say, "Oh, you should come over," only once they'd been caught? The first evening, I watched them set up a barbecue in the yard. Dad and Mark are firing up the grill, and I can hear the distant sounds of sizzling meat and bursts of laughter. Linda's voice rises above the rest, probably telling them how to season the steaks. I imagine them clinking their glasses, toasting the whole family. My fists clench involuntarily. Are they talking about me at all? Does anyone say, "Hey, it's weird that Alex isn't here," or "Should we give him a call?" I feel a twinge of guilt for wishing they'd feel awkward or incomplete, but I can't help it. I turn off the lights in my living room, worried they might notice me if the windows are bright. I sit there in the dark, occasionally sipping a cheap beer, listening to the muffled revelry next door. Later that night, close to midnight, I peek outside again. The grill is off, and I can see Mark and Nicole messing around with their phones, probably posting pictures of the great first night. Ashley is lying on one of those deck chairs, scrolling through her feed. Dad's inside, from what I can tell. I notice an empty Adirondack chair near the fence, still pulled up to the table. Maybe that was supposed to be my seat, or maybe it's just an extra chair. Either way, the sight of it makes my chest tighten. I wonder if they're all thinking about me. Probably not. If they were, they'd text or call, right? I don't sleep well. In my restless dreams, I see flashes of family barbecues from my childhood. Dad flipping burgers, Linda fussing over side dishes, Mark and Nicole laughing. But every time I try to approach them in these dreams, it's like an invisible barrier stops me. I wake up feeling as though I've run a marathon. The next morning, I make myself a cup of coffee and step out onto the tiny back porch. From there, I have a partial view of my family's rental. It's early, and the sun is just coming up over the ocean, casting long shadows. To my surprise, I see Ashley out for a run along the beach. She stops at the edge of the sand to do some stretches, her ponytail swaying. She looks fit and happy, and I wonder if she's still working at that job she told me about a year ago, the marketing agency in Boston. We haven't spoken much since the last family gathering. Has it really been that long? I feel a sudden pang of loneliness. My plan might have been to observe them without being seen, but it's already wearing me down. Maybe I should just pack up and go home. But then I think about the money I've spent, the principle of the thing. They didn't even try. They didn't even bother to ask me once. I shake off the urge to retreat. That afternoon, I decide I can't stay cooped up in this rental indefinitely. I head into town to grab some groceries and see the local spots. It's a small beach community with surf shops, cozy cafes, and one main grocery store. As I'm scanning the produce section, I hear a burst of laughter that sounds exactly like Nicole's. My stomach clenches. I glance around, expecting to see her. But it turns out to be a random group of tourists. I feel both relieved and disappointed. Part of me almost wants to get caught, to see how they'd react. While waiting in line at the checkout, my phone buzzes. It's a text from my friend Connor, back home. Dude, how's your week going? Want to grab a beer? I realize I never told him I'd gone off on this strange mission. I hesitate to reply because how do I explain I'm essentially spying on my own family? I shove my phone into my pocket and stare at the conveyor belt moving my groceries forward. It all feels surreal. Back at the rental, I notice new cars have arrived next door. More relatives, I guess. My Aunt Denise's red SUV is parked out front. I've always gotten along with her. She's the warm, motherly type who'd slip me $20 when I was a broke college kid. Does she know I wasn't invited? Would she have questioned it? Or did she just assume I had something better to do? Around dinner time, the smell of grilled seafood wafts through my open window, and I peer out to see my brother Mark carrying a platter of shrimp kebabs. I'm startled by how much older he looks these days. He's filled out, got a bit of a beard going, and somehow he carries himself with a confidence I've never quite matched. Even as kids, he was the social butterfly, the cool brother. I was the quieter one who read books in my room while he played sports. Sometimes I wondered if that was the reason they all seemed to bond without me. I never learned how to fit into their boisterous dynamic. Late that night, I'm back to my old routine, perched at the window with the lights off. I see Nicole clearing dishes from the deck, Ashley giggling over something on her phone, and Linda hugging Rick from behind, both of them gazing out toward the dark ocean. It's a tender moment, and my heart hurts seeing how happy and loving they seem. Part of me wants to run over and say, I'm here. I want to be part of this. Another part wants to stay hidden and nurse my grievances. The second part wins. On the third morning, I decide to take a walk along the shore, figuring they're all sleeping in after another late night. The beach is quiet, just the steady crash of waves and a few early risers. I'm lost in thought, remembering the times I tried to organize small gatherings at my tiny apartment, only for half the family to bail or forget. I wonder if I somehow trained them to think I didn't care, that they'd started preemptively leaving me out because I'd grown so distant. Yet even if that's true, how hard would it have been to send a text? As I round a bend in the shoreline, I stop short. My mom Linda and my Aunt Denise are standing not far away, barefoot in the sand, chatting. My heart thunders. If I keep walking, they'll definitely see me. I'm not ready for a confrontation, but there's nowhere to hide except maybe behind a large clump of driftwood. Before I can decide, Linda glances up and spots me. There's a flicker of shock in her eyes. She nudges Denise, who turns around, equally surprised. Alex? Mom calls out, stepping closer. She's got a beach tote over her shoulder, her hair pulled back in a messy bun. She looks older than I remember, lines of stress or age etched around her eyes, but there's something soft in her gaze. What are you doing here? I panic. My first instinct is to play dumb. Oh, hey, I'm just taking a solo trip. Needed a break. Didn't know you guys would be here. It's a blatant lie, of course, and I can tell she doesn't fully buy it. Denise looks from me to Mom, seeming unsure how to react. Mom's eyes fill with a mix of confusion and what looks like guilt. We had no idea you were coming. You should have told us. I can't help the small, bitter chuckle that escapes me. Well, I didn't think it mattered since I wasn't invited, right? I try to keep my voice steady, but it wavers. Denise steps forward, her expression alarmed. Honey, we all thought you were busy. Nicole said you hadn't answered her calls in a while, and when she texted about this trip a couple months back, she never heard back. Now I'm the one confused. Texted me a couple months back? Did I miss something? My mind flickers through my messages. Could it have been lost among spam, or maybe I changed my number and forgot to tell them? I feel a surge of anger and embarrassment. I never saw a text about a vacation, I say, voice firm. Linda and Denise share a glance. Come back to the house with us, Mom urges gently. Let's talk this through. Sir. Everything in me wants to refuse, to cling to my wounded pride. But I'm curious. Maybe there's more to this story than I realized. And honestly, I'm tired of feeling like a ghost. So I agree, and we walk along the shoreline together. I notice Linda keeps sneaking glances at me, like she's trying to gauge my mood. Denise does most of the talking, asking me about work, my life back home, how I'm holding up. I give clipped answers, not quite ready to open up. When we reach the rental, the rest of the family is milling around the deck. I spot Mark carrying some beach towels, Ashley rummaging in a cooler, and Rick, Dad, sipping coffee while checking something on his phone. The second they see me, it's like time slows. Rick nearly drops his mug. Nicole's eyes go wide, and Mark just stands there, stunned. The silence is palpable. Eventually, Dad finds his voice. Son, you're here. I let out a strained laugh. Yeah, apparently. Rented a place right next door, believe it or not. Nicole's face flushes. She immediately looks around as if searching for an explanation. I didn't know you were free. She comes over, arms out, but she hesitates. I take a step back. I'm not ready for a hug. Linda, still beside me, clears her throat. Maybe we should all sit down and talk. You could hear a pin drop among the family. Ashley slips her phone into her pocket. Mark shifts from one foot to the other, and Dad sets his coffee cup down on the railing. We gather in the living room, an airy space with big windows facing the ocean. Everyone finds a seat on plush couches or chairs, while I stand near the doorway, arms crossed. Look, I begin, exhaling shakily. I saw all these posts and pictures about a family beach trip for Dad's birthday, and no one told me anything. I felt, forgotten. Nicole rubs her temples. I tried to text you months ago, and when you never replied, I assumed you weren't interested. Then Mark said you were barely picking up calls, and Dad said he left you messages you never returned. Yes, I figured you were just busy or wanted some space. Mark nods, avoiding my eyes. I texted you a few times, man. Just random stuff, but you rarely wrote back. I guess we all sort of concluded you. Didn't want to be bothered. My mind reels. Did I miss all that? I recall a period of serious depression last year where I was ignoring my phone a lot. Could I have missed something crucial? Linda touches my arm, her eyes damp. We never wanted to exclude you. Please believe that. We weren't sure how to reach you anymore. You seemed so distant. I struggle to speak, a whirlwind of emotions swirling in my chest. You still could have tried harder, I say quietly. I was going through a lot, but an actual invitation would have meant so much. Instead, I saw everything on social media like I was some acquaintance who didn't make the cut. Swam. Rick steps forward, his voice cracking a bit. Son, I've been worried about you for a while. Your mom, too. We told Nicole to see if you'd want to come, and when she said you never responded, we assumed you needed space. I'm sorry. Maybe that was the wrong call. Suffer. We all fall silent, letting the weight of the moment settle in. Finally, Ashley pipes up. So, you rented the house next door just to watch us. I bristle at the wording but nod. Yeah, I wanted to see if you guys even missed me or if you'd mention me. I try not to sound too bitter. It was impulsive. They exchange glances. Some look guilty, others sympathetic. Denise, perched on the edge of a sofa, sighs. I wish you had just texted me, Alex. I would have made sure you knew every detail. For the first time in days, my anger starts to ebb. I feel foolish for my espionage act, but also justified. I guess I let things spiral, I admit. I've been dealing with a lot. Work stress, feeling isolated, and when I saw all of you here without me, it brought back every childhood memory of being the odd one out. Nicole stands and crosses the room toward me. There's genuine remorse in her eyes. You were never the odd one out, Alex. You just, mm, liked your own space. And we didn't know how to handle it when you pulled away. But I'm sorry for any part I played in making you feel excluded. Ooh, my throat tightens. All I can manage is a small nod. One by one, they all try to express regret. Even Mark, who's usually too cool for emotional speeches, mumbles, I should have tried harder to make sure you knew about this. Sorry, man. Dad comes over and I stiffen, expecting some big paternal lecture. Instead, he gently puts a hand on my shoulder. Look, it's my birthday celebration, but I'd be happier if you'd join us for the rest of the trip. Think you can do that? We've got a room upstairs. Hell, we've got 4 empty beds. Or if you're more comfortable in your own place, that's fine. But at least hang out with us during the day. Part of me wants to retreat back to my rental and nurse my grudges, but seeing the concern on all their faces, I realize I'm too exhausted for more fighting. Slowly, I uncross my arms. All right, I say. I'll stay next door, but I'll come by for meals and stuff. It feels strange, like a truce after a Cold War. They all let out relieved sighs. Mom immediately wants to fuss over me in the kitchen, offering me coffee and pastries. It's overwhelming, but also strangely comforting. For the first time in days, I'm not an outsider peering in. I'm part of this family. Awkward, messy, complicated as it might be. Over the next few days, things remain a little tense, but we make an effort to reconnect. Mark and I go for a morning run together, something we haven't done since we were teenagers. During the jog, we talk about our lives, my job worries, his new gig at some tech startup. He admits he always felt I didn't like him much. I confess I always felt overshadowed. It's a conversation that feels long overdue. Nicole and I end up cooking dinner together one evening. She tells me about her engagement, which I knew about but never really discussed with her. She says she was worried I'd judge her fiancé, or that I was too busy to help plan anything. I realize just how bad our communication has gotten. We laugh awkwardly, trying to navigate the years of distance. Linda and Rick, Mom and Dad, hover a bit, asking if I need anything, if I'm comfortable. Part of me finds it irritating, but another part melts at the attention. They really do love me. They just didn't know how to break through the walls I'd built or notice the ones they inadvertently built themselves. By the final evening of the trip, there's a noticeable shift in the air. The house is alive with chatter, jokes, small disagreements over what movie to watch. It's not perfect, but it feels more like home than it did a week ago. Dad fires up the grill for one last cookout, and I help him flip burgers, just like we used to do. He teases me about my technique. I roll my eyes, but grin anyway. The tension that weighed me down for so long feels lighter now. Night falls, and after everyone's eaten, Nicole forces us all to pose for a group photo on the deck. She sets her phone on a timer and runs to join us, nearly tripping over a chair in the process. We're crowded together, arms slung around each other. When the flash goes off, I realize I'm in the center of the frame. It hits me that I used to hate family photos because I always ended up on the edges or out of focus. Now, I'm front and center, their arms pulling me in. It's cheesy, but I feel a surge of gratitude. Later, once everyone's drifted off to sleep or to late-night board games, I wander back to my little rental next door. The moon is high, and the surf roars gently in the background. I pause at the fence separating the two properties and gaze at the lights illuminating my family's place. Just days ago, I was skulking in the dark, binoculars in hand, seething with resentment. Now, while the hurt isn't magically gone, I see a path forward, a chance that this might be the start of something better. Inside my rental, I collapse onto the couch and chuckle at the memory of how absurd this entire situation was. Yes, they should have made more effort to invite me directly. Yes, I should have been more receptive and communicative. But if there's one thing I've learned this week, it's that most family rifts are a two-way street. We all made assumptions, we all got stuck in our own viewpoints, and we all ended up hurting each other unintentionally. The following morning, I wake to a text from Nicole. Brunch at the big house. Bring your appetite. A smile tugs at my lips. I might have had to rent a house next door and spy on them to force this confrontation, but in a strange way, it's brought us closer than we've been in years. Maybe healing is possible, even if the path to get there is downright bizarre. I pack up my stuff, preparing to check out of my little rental soon. Before I leave, I take one last look around. The place is filled with reminders of my odd covert operation. My binoculars on the coffee table, the notepad where I scribbled times and observations of their gatherings. It all feels slightly insane in retrospect, but also weirdly necessary. Sometimes you have to do something drastic to shake loose the truth. Stepping onto the porch, I can see Mark waving from next door, his face lit by morning sunlight. Dad's voice booms from somewhere inside, calling for me to hurry up. For the first time since I arrived, I don't feel like an intruder on my own family's vacation. I lock the door behind me and head over, a sense of cautious optimism blooming in my chest. Maybe this is just one step, and we have a lot of ground to cover before we're a picture-perfect family again. But as I walk into our rental, and smell fresh coffee and hear Linda telling everyone to set the table, I know for sure I'm not on the outside looking in anymore. At least not today. And that's a start.